Guys, we've got Nic from Molly Rose. Now, Molly Rose is a brewery. It's based in Richmond in Melbourne, Australia, and it's a fantastic brewery. Molly Rose is actually one of our customers, and welcome, Nic.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me here.
Absolute pleasure. So, mate, give us a little bit of a rundown on the business. I know that we've been kind of looking after you guys for about a year now. I'd love to hear a little bit about the story of how you got started in the business, and if you can give everyone a bit of a rundown on what the business is, and yeah.
Yeah, sure can. So I guess we'll go back a few steps. I've been a brewer my whole working career. I went from studying science at university to studying brewing at university, and then into working for breweries like Little Creatures, Stone and Wood, and Holgate.
Can I just stop you there for 1 second? You said that you studied science at university.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. We had Guy from Stomping Ground here a couple of weeks ago, and he was I think a chemical engineer as well. So he did chemical engineering at university. So it's just funny. Anyway, keep going.
Worked for a lot of other breweries, making lots of different beers. Pretty good fun, but I always realised that I kind of wanted to have my own business. And kind of got to the point where I go, all right, it's time to jump in and give it a crack. So I quit my job, and I actually went traveling for 4 months around the world on a bit of a sabbatical, investigating beer cultures and traditions.
Yeah.
And that was good fun. So I went to Japan and the States and all over Europe, just getting out, tasting a whole bunch of beer, eating food, seeing how people do it. In Australia, we've got a pretty young beer culture. Pretty young everything culture compared to the rest of the world. But you look at some of the places like Germany, Belgium, England, been making beer for a long time and serving it to their community. Really interesting, really fun beers that goes with their food, goes with good times. Yeah. So I wanted to bring back some new ideas for Molly Rose. And I got back, and because I've just been on a 4-month trip around the world drinking beer, I didn't have any money to start a business. So I decided to start Molly Rose with a subscription. Mm-hmm. So we sold 6 beers, each with a unique story and a unique flavour, kind of telling a part of how myself and Molly Rose have got to that point. So did a beer that we just released called Kuro, which is a Japanese dark lager based on Japanese food. This blend of savoury and sweet, and it's one of our more popular beers. That was one that we launched with. So then kind of rolled them out, made a few more batches of beer with the money that I made from that subscription. We're talking like 200-litre batches of beer here that I would spend 2 or 3 days to make each batch, and then 2 or 3 days to bottle each batch, and then 2 or 3 days to label each. It was full-on, hands-on.
Labour-intensive. How many subscriptions did you have, say, in the first 6 months or so?
Yeah, so we sold 150 of them, which was fantastic. We somehow garnered a bit of support from amongst friends and family and friends of friends. Mm-hmm. And then, won a couple of awards for some of those beers that I'd brewed, and convinced some friends and family to give me a little bit of money, and we leased the warehouse that we've got on Wellington Street.
Yep.
And started building the brewery myself. So built the brewery myself. In 2018, we took the lease, and we opened in 2019 in June. And so it's a 200 square metre warehouse. We make the beer up the back, Monday to Wednesday, and Thursday to Sunday, we pack the brewery stuff out to the side, tidy everything up, mop the floors quickly, and then we open the doors and let customers in.
Yeah, cool. So you were telling me before that you guys have taken some more space as well. So can you give us a bit of a rundown on the extra space and kind of when that's going to be open, all that type of thing?
Yeah. Yep. So we've taken over the building next door.
Or is it supposed to be a secret?
No, it's not a secret. Yeah, I haven't announced it yet because everything takes longer than it should.
It does.
But yeah, we're taking the space next door, and we're planning on putting a full kitchen in, a bit of a cocktail wine bar type thing, but focusing on beer, obviously, and then nice big beer garden as well.
Yeah, sick.
So hopefully open before the end of the year. Fingers crossed.
End of the financial year or end of the calendar year?
Calendar.
Yeah. It is construction. It always takes another 6 months. So, cool. So Japan. Can you run me through? So you said you travelled to Japan. It's pretty interesting. Tell me the beer culture in comparison to, say, the US or Australia. Can you give me a bit of a rundown on the core differences that you saw?
Yeah, so craft beer is pretty young in Japan. They've got quite expensive tax on their beer, like we do here, except it's probably a little bit more.
Yep.
But they can't. I don't know. Have you been to Japan?
I haven't, no.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you've eaten Japanese food and know a little bit about the culture. They are artisans. Whatever they want to do, Japanese people tend to focus in on like one narrow thing and just do the absolute best. Spend 50 years trying to make the best ramen noodles. Mm-hmm. So it's no surprise that that's switched across onto craft beer as well, because it is an artisanal type thing. But they've also got this long history of sake and lots of other booze. So yeah, food and drink are really important to Japanese culture, and it was great to go over there and just be immersed in like really passionate people who are trying to nail down their chosen path and share some of their experiences.
And in terms of the type of beers that you experienced over there, obviously I know in the US it's very hoppy kind of, very different flavour to what we're used to here. What was the Japanese experience then, and what is it now?
So Japanese regular beer is kind of like lagers.
Lager,
they do dark lager and pale lagers. The craft beer is very much influenced by the American scene, like most craft beer around the world. Mm-hmm. Is heavily influenced by the American scene. So yeah, there's a lot of hoppy stuff, a lot of interesting things like that. But then they reach across to Europe and they do a bit of Belgian things. They also I saw a little bit of kind of using ingredients that are core to Japanese cooking, like the plums and the cherry leaves and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So they're reaching back into their own culture to bring it forward to craft beer. But in terms of volume, when I was over there, I don't know now, but when I was over there, it was about a quarter of the volume in terms of...
a quarter of the total volume?
So I took a quarter of the volume of Australia's craft beer.
Okay.
So the scene is much, much smaller. It's about 25% of what we've got here in terms of craft beer. But it was growing fast.
Okay, so yeah, they're probably, if you think about their beer, I mean, their beers are so famous and popular. Some of their mainstream beers would be, no doubt, their core sellers, and then everything else would be lagging behind.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. Your wife is a winemaker.
Yes.
Which winery and what kind of wine does she make?
Yeah, so she's got Pachamama Wines and Cloak and Dagger. Mm-hmm. They use a technique where they don't own a vineyard. They work with specific growers, and they have done for a long time.
And they source from
the best regions they can find. So they go to Heathcote Shiraz because, I mean, it's awesome. Great. A Pinot from the Yarra and a Chardonnay from the Yarra, King Valley, Sangiovese and Pinot Grigio, mm-hmm. Central Vic Pinot Gris, kind of like they go around sourcing the best locations. And then they bring it all into a central winery, which is out in Warrandyte at the moment, and they make the wines.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. And you worked at Little Creatures when you're obviously coming up. I always think about the way that people learnt their craft. I think that when I was growing up, I was in hospitality for a lot of years, and I learned my craft from someone that you might consider like a second father kind of thing. And I think a lot of guys as they're coming through, they kind of have the same relationship with people where you've got this other person that kind of teaches you over a number of years. Can you run me through your experience in learning how to, learning your craft and learning how to brew beer?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess Little Creatures was a pretty big company when I was there, and I had that job while I was at uni. So I was working 4 days a week and then going to uni as well. In their packaging hall, it was a really big company. It's just after Lion bought them, actually. Probably where I learnt my craft and where I was most heavily influenced was my next job, which is at Stone & Wood in Byron Bay. Mm-hmm. So I was the 14th employee there, and I was the 5th brewer hired, so it was very early on in their experience. So, I mean, Brad Rogers was very influential. He's the brewer, one of the founders of Stone & Wood. Heavyweight of the Australian beer industry. A lot of people have been mentored by Brad, but yeah, I was really lucky to spend a fair bit of time with him as I was learning the skills, and He's actually a winemaker by trade, and so a lot of his ethos, I guess, when we talk about beer, his beer ethos is to make sure that everything is balanced and make sure that every element of the beer is balanced, and that's very much how we go out brewing beer at Molly Rose, is making sure that it's balanced and approachable. Which I think is a way that winemakers think about making wine, is make sure that the tannin is in balance with the acid and the fruit is in balance, and that everything is in balance. Whereas in beer, a lot of people just kind of throw things together and go for bang.
Yeah, I was going to say, do enough brewers have a think about balance, or are they very kind of like a lot of their personality shows through in their beer?
Look, there's a lot of great brewers out there now in Australia. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, there weren't as many. But yeah, a lot more people these days think about it, because there's a lot more diversity in the industry's bigger, and we've had to draw in a lot of different people from whiskey, from winemaking, from every different industry. Even out of hospo, we still a lot of brewers out of hospo who come across to the dark side of production, and I mean, just sampling and tasting a whole bunch of different drinks is really beneficial to making interesting and well balanced beers, I reckon.
Do you think that's just is that all due to just the sheer volume of craft breweries out there that are just dragging from other industries? And
Absolutely. There's also a passion project. I mean, we're not in beer to make the big bucks. We're in it because we love it. We love making things. It is very much an artisanal type industry.
Cool. So you're talking about making the big bucks. I know that it's in craft, it's very, very difficult. Obviously, the guys at Stone and Wood were probably the first, really the first, maybe Little Creatures, but I think Stone and Wood were close to the first brewery to have a good exit, if that makes sense. Yeah. Where do you see the exits happening in craft? Because I know that groups like Mighty Craft and Gage Roads and these kind of groups are popping up, and they're starting to make some acquisitions in the space. Is that where you see it, or do you see it going more to the majors? Or
look, I personally think the majors they've filled their portfolios pretty much. I don't know that there'll be many more acquisitions from the two majors. I think, Mighty Craft, Gage Roads, these larger players of the independent craft beer, Tribe, places like that, they may be looking to acquire smaller brands. Maybe some mid-sized brands might be looking to acquire a small to mid-sized brand in a different city.
Yep.
But I don't think there'll be a whole lot more movement. I think the last 5 years is kind of
it's been epic.
It's been pretty consolidated.
Yeah, cool. I was having a look on your website before, and had a look on Google and looked into your the design of your cans, etc. The designs are amazing. Who designed everything? Because you look at some, and some really go over the top, and it's a bit much. Some breweries. But looking at all your stuff, it's really cool. Like I was stunned by the quality of it. So who started the design, and who keeps it going?
Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate that. It's always nice to hear, because I'm pretty proud of it.
It's amazing.
I'm really proud of how the cans look, and also how they fit amongst the crowd. So I work with a lady named Claudia. Her company's Cloudy & Co. She has her own business. She's fantastic, an amazing designer. Hasn't done beer before and doesn't want to do beer again.
How come?
So she works in wine, and they've got really long lead times and everything, because they only make wine once a year. Whereas me, I change my mind every week. And I'm like, Claudia, got a new idea, let's do it. And she's like, oh God, Nick, slow down, I'm still working on the last 3 ones.
Because you guys can make a small shift to make a completely new beer, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. We can brew beer every day of the week. We can brew a different beer every day of the week, and it'll be ready within a month.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Cool.
And so, we released over 50 products last year. Like, that's a lot of beer. So, she doesn't have the headspace or the time to deal with another brewer.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, Nick, you're enough. Slow down. But it was our intention, and she was recommended by a friend of mine who's a designer,
Yep.
We're looking for someone to kind of put a different spin on beer, make it more approachable, more balanced, and just do something a little bit different.
Yeah,
cool. A lot of beer, like you say, is pretty full on. It's pretty masculine as well. Unfortunately, a lot of brewers, it's changing, especially around the traps. It's changing, but for a long time it was really masculine, kind of, just not approachable looking designs on beer cans. So we wanted to make something that everyone felt comfortable holding, everyone felt comfortable picking off the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cool.
I think she's done it. She's done a great job.
She's done a spectacular job. I mean, there's probably only a few brands that really stand out to me as stand out without standing out, if that makes sense. I think the ones that really blow you, smash you in the face are the ones that are a bit over the top. But I think about obviously yours, and then you've got like cans like Bolter. Bolter do a spectacular job with design as well. I think a little bit understated, but very classic. I really think she's done a spectacular job. Run me through. We talk about wholesale versus retail a lot in our business, and I think that you guys are obviously expanding your retail to make sure that you can really drill it from the warehouse in Richmond and expand that. Run me through the wholesale side of your business. Obviously, you've copped a slap in the face over the last couple of years, and we know that. Run me through the differences, from bottle shops across to hospitality and kind of your kind of independents, which might fall under bottle shops. But can you give me a bit of a rundown on how those three have fared over the last little bit?
Yeah, sure can. Well, when we launched in June 2019. We had 8 months before COVID hit, so we kind of were just finding our feet. And the plan was to focus on the hospitality side. So we would do some wholesale. It would be mainly to make sure that we pulled through the beer pretty quick. And as a marketing tool, it was never going to be a money spinner. So it was to try to get the beer out and into people's hands to get them into our venue. So we never had the plan to do a core range that early on. So we're going to make 2 or 3 different beers every month and just sell them around to independents around Melbourne. Then COVID hit and we no longer had a bar to sell our beer in. And we were presented... So the number one reason we got a core range was we were presented an opportunity to go into Dan Murphy's. Mm-hmm. They turned a switch overnight and turned on the ability to cut through all this red tape and get into some of your local Dan Murphy's stores. Normally it was a 2 or 3 month wait and you go tick this box, tick that box, get this price and do this. They just said, no, send us your beer. We'll go in there. A month later, it was in stores. That kind of thing.
How did that happen?
I think they were working on a project to localise their offer because they saw local bottle shops just taking over. And Dan Murphy's always want to be at the front of stuff. Mm-hmm. So they were working on that project already. They just turned it on a little bit early. So, we got 20 Dan Murphy's that were closest around us, delivered direct to store like we do with the independents. And they pretty much bought the beer that we said we had. And they continue to do so. So the reason we put a core range in is because in the chains, you got to have shelf presence. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're just not going to sell any beer. So we decided to put them in a coloured can instead of just black and white. Yep. And we had a core range. So we did the Lemon Farmhouse Ale, When Life Gives You Lemons, and Skylight, which is an IPA. And
so the core range is just purely so it's recognisable. When people go back to each retailer, they know, okay, that's Molly Rose.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. And it's also great to have a core range. And I stick by them as 2 of our best beers we make, even though we release limited releases all the time that have got grapes in them and they've got carrots in them and they've got all sorts of crazy stuff and they're really delicious. But those 2 beers, I come back to them and I go, oh, shit, that's bloody good. Mm. So, I mean, they're just great beers, and so it's wonderful having them available year round. They're always in my fridge.
Cool.
So, I mean, we got the core range, which then went out into indies, independent bottle stores. Black Hearts and Sparrows are our best customer. They're fantastic. So I think they've got 13 stores now. Which is fantastic. And then, send the core range out, and then we still do our 2 or 3 limited releases every month. So bottle shops took off during COVID, as you guys would know. On premise, a little bit sad. There's a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, having a look at bottle shops. I mean, we've got, I don't know, we've probably got about 11 or 1,200 bottle shops that are signed up on our system, and their purchasing just went through the roof. It was up by 35% through COVID. So it's crazy numbers.
Yeah, bottle shops went crazy.
Yeah.
Pubs, pretty sad state of affairs for them.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of breweries had a lot of beer in kegs, which you can't sell. So a lot of breweries had the same issue. I know of one brewery in Melbourne that had 1,200 kegs that they couldn't sell. Jesus. Yeah, that's a lot of beer.
And what's the shelf life in a keg?
Look, if it's refrigerated, 3 months it's still tasting pretty good. But then at the end of that 3 months, there's going to be all of these semi-old, semi-not tasting good beers out there. And like pubs aren't going to want to buy that. They want to restart with really nice fresh beer. So it's like it's what do you do with this? Do you hold on to it and try and sell it at a discount, or do you brew more beer?
Exactly, yeah. Do you try and if you hold on to it and sell it at a discount, are you ruining your brand by getting shit beer out there, kind of thing? Yeah,
exactly. So we're lucky we didn't have, because we had so many different lockdowns. We kind of played it light on kegs throughout those couple of years. So, and we're pretty flexible. We're pretty small, so we're able to can out of kegs a couple of times.
Yeah,
and just
So you guys keep everything pretty nimble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, we're lucky that we've just started because we could just change the whole business on its head.
Yeah.
And instead of having a venue where we sold all our beer, we went to a core range and started selling a whole bunch of cans everywhere.
Yeah. Cool.
So we bought a canning line as well, a little one. That means we could make a whole lot more different beers more often.
Yeah. Awesome. The economics of a brewery are, for me, they're pretty interesting. They're very different to a lot of other verticals, and probably similar to maybe some manufacturing businesses as it is, but very vastly different to the hospitality. The makeup of a hospitality business where you got your 30 and maybe you got some margin at the end, maybe. Run me through what you foresee being those kind of core metrics in and the unit economics in breweries, and kind of where you are kind of maybe today and where you'd want to go. Obviously, volume brings a lot more to the table, and it gives you a huge benefit as far as margin is concerned. But can you just give me a bit of a rundown on the economics of a brewery?
Yeah, we're different. We're really small. And we make beer in a slightly different way to other people. We don't actually own a brew house.
Mm-hmm.
So when you make beer, you use grain, hops, water and yeast. You take that grain and you mash it all up with hot water, and then you strain it out and you get some hot liquid and you boil it. So that's called the brew house, where you do all that.
Yep.
So we utilize other people's brew house space and brew there, put it into a stainless steel IBC, so a big stainless steel square pallet tank, put it in the back of the truck, bring it to our brewery, pump it into our tanks, and then we ferment it and package it on our site.
Okay.
So let's say we've got 6 tanks. If a beer takes 3 to 4 weeks to ferment, you might only be brewing once or twice a week.
Okay.
Because you've got no tank space.
Yep.
So
this allows you guys to have that flexibility to have some spare tank space, because you're only doing the end of the kind of, or halfway through the process.
Exactly. So we've got a really small warehouse. We've got just the tanks in there, and probably 75% of your startup cost would go towards the brew house that makes the sticky liquid. And there's no other business. It's probably 75%.
Wow. Okay.
So there's no other business out there that you would spend 75% of your capital on something that you use once or twice a week. But that's for a small brewery. So we've only got 6 tanks. If you've got 12 tanks, completely different, because then you use it 4, 5, 6 times a week.
Yep.
But yeah, we brew once a week. At the moment, we're utilising Bodriggy's brew house. They're great guys around the corner from us in Abbotsford. I
was going to say, are there businesses that are just purely a brew house? So like that just do brew house for a number of different...
No. So this is my technique is not unique, but it's quite rare.
Okay, cool.
So Bodriggy, up until recently, they had a certain amount of tanks that they don't brew on Mondays. The brew house just sits there. So I go in there, pay them some money, get their staff to work, helps pay for their staff, helps pay for their services, and gives them a bit of extra cash on a Monday when they wouldn't normally be using their brew house.
Yeah, perfect.
So it's like a win-win. So we've got this really small site, brew once a week, And that's about all we can fit on our current site. We're pretty small. So for us, the best way for us to sell our beer is in a glass.
Yes.
So put it in a glass, there's a pint, take it, get your cash straight away. Great for cash flow.
And your margins are healthy.
Margins really healthy.
And but cash flow is that critical thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So in a glass across the table, there you go. I'll have some money.
Yes.
Transfer. Now Square do transfers over the weekend. So like you're not even waiting till Monday for your payment. So fantastic for the business for many, many reasons. Probably second best is, I don't know, it's hard retail or e-commerce for us. So like people coming in and buying a 4-pack or walking away. Great.
Yep.
E-commerce also excellent.
So people come into the brewery and buy a slab or a 6-pack or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
E-commerce. So they're probably on par as well, which is great because you keep all your margin.
Yes.
And for us, I like that too because it's one step closer to your customer. It means they're getting our beer fresher and better than they could anywhere else, which has gone on a truck to a warehouse, out to them, and it's sat on someone's shelf for a bit longer.
For sure.
Whereas from us, we know it's fresh, we know it's great, we're taking it straight to your door, or you're picking it up straight from us.
Yeah, so you're losing. So you give it if you pass it off to a retailer as a wholesale customer, the customer's going to get it later, so they're not going to get as fresh a beer, and you're going to lose margin.
Yeah, well, you lose, depending on the place, 20 to 40%.
So anyone that bothers to listen to this, if you want to buy beer from Molly Rose, go straight to the cellar door.
Absolutely. Yeah, so they're our best, and then it depends on the beer next. It's like kegs are great because it's fantastic to sell 50 litres of beer in one go.
Yep.
But I mean, if that venue isn't going to pull through a keg in a month, then it's not great to sell it to them because the beer's probably not tasting great at the end of it, and then
and they probably struggle to pay you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's a toss up. A lot of businesses are very keg heavy, a lot of them very very pack heavy, and we kind of float in between.
Yeah, cool. I've got only a few more questions left. Have you got business partners? I'm always interested. You said you went and got some investment early on in the piece. Do you? So have you got business partners? And kind of how involved in the business are they?
A couple of investors, 3 parties, friends and family. Really, really lucky to have these investors. They are all experts in their field, which is helpful. For advice, and they're the type of investors that I won't speak to for 6 months. Then we'll have 3 or 4 conversations in the next month.
Yes.
So they're there to lean on if I need help. But if I don't, I send them an email every now and then, check in, and they're great. Cool.
And their backgrounds, if you don't mind me asking, are they lawyers? Are they accountants? I mean,
there's a couple from finance, and then there's an engineer. Yeah,
cool. So obviously, obviously going into business, all these extra people, they're bloody important having a couple of experts around you. Now, they'll only chip in every now and then, which that's all you need them for because you don't want someone to get too involved. But absolutely, it's good having your phone there just to kind of pick up and ask those kind of key questions.
Yeah. I'm really lucky. I had a great mentor who's also very smart, very knowledgeable, experienced businessman, and he really drove home the fact that there's money. When I was looking for investors, he's like, Nick, there's money, and then there's good money. Mm-hmm. He's like, money is cheap. It's everywhere. You can get it. Don't worry about that. And at the time, I was so poor and just wanted to start my brewery. I was like, Pete, I'd take any money. He's like, no, there's good money, and you need good money. And I now understand that good money comes with great advice and great connections, and they are vital to making a successful business.
Agreed, and also also good money is people that are confident to let you get on with it. I think people that give money, it's hard to make money. So people that give you money, they're well within their rights to trying to be overbearing and all the rest of it. But if you can get good people that can give you money without getting too involved, I think that's so bloody important.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Cool. So what's next for you guys? I mean, obviously you're expanding the space, but where do you see the business in 24 months?
24 months, we'll have our new venue up and running. We will have 24 months.
I know it's a fair way away.
Jesus,
have a think about where you were 24 months ago.
What a trick question. The new venue will be well and truly up and running. It'll have a hatted restaurant in it.
Yep.
We'll say that. And then we'll be making great beer. We'll be widely known across Melbourne, hopefully, for great beer, across Australia for great non-alcoholic beer.
Yep.
And possibly looking towards building our own brew house somewhere.
Yeah, cool. Non-alcoholic beer, do you see that as a obviously, heaps normal, etc. They've nailed it over the last 12 months, probably 24 months. Do you guys, you think that that's a key area moving forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. Non-alcoholic beer is great. There's an opportunity at the moment to make something that, look, we're in an alcohol industry. It's not an inherently healthy industry. Like, great things come from going out and have a beer with your mates. It's fantastic. It's a social lubricant. It's great for everyone's mental health to do that. But alcohol causes harm. We can't shy away from that. So to be able to make a product that is actively helping people reduce their drinking, increase their healthiness, it's fantastic. I'm really stoked. And so it started when I didn't believe in them up until about 12 months ago. It was pretty much 12 months to the day. I didn't believe in non-alcoholic beers. I was like, rubbish, whatever. I had a 1-year-old at the time, and going to Holgate, who were mates of mine, and they were making a few different non-alcoholic beers. They kept giving them to me. I kept putting them in the fridge. And I just grab one out of the fridge and drink it, and I go, oh, actually, I don't feel like drinking another beer now. That's kind of hit my cravings, and I don't need it anymore. Finish a long, hard day, especially working in a brewery. All you want to do is drink a fucking beer. So these non-alcoholic beers I could cut down on my beer drinking, and I could have a few non-alcoholic days during the week, which is what my goal is. And I go, well, if I'm enjoying these beers, if they have a purpose for me in my life, why not make one? Because I've got a brewery because I love beer and I love making beer. So I decided to go out and make a couple of non-alcoholic beers for Dry July last year. I think I decided June 4th or June 5th that I wanted to do a beer for Dry July, and turned it around, got it out at the start of July, which is bloody good.
And what's it called?
We've got Citra, which is a Citra IPA in an orange can, and then we've got Strawberry Sublime, which is a strawberry and lime gosa. So a little bit salty, a little bit sour, and strawberry and limes. Yeah,
cool. So you think one of the key future areas of growth in brewers is kind of moderation.
Definitely. There's a trend in booze for health. You see it in wine as well with non-alcs, and then everyone's reducing their alcohol contents. It makes sense. You want your customers to be healthy. You want them to be happy. A lot more people are looking towards the lower alcohol end. I'm proud of our beers. I think they taste great, and they're giving people a healthier option.
And you said a year ago that you had a 1-year-old, so that means now you've got a 2-year-old?
I do, yeah.
Boy or girl?
Little boy.
Awesome. And what's his name?
Seb.
And what do you want for him? I know it's a hard question.
What do I want for him?
Obviously, you and your wife, you've both got your own businesses, and
yep.
It's a tough gig at the best of times having your own business in any industry. You've got a little kid. I don't know if you've got more on the way, but run me through what the next 5 years looks like for him. Are you going to stay? Do you think you're going to kind of stay in Melbourne? Are you going to expand out? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so 5 years time, we're in Melbourne now.
Are you from Melbourne originally?
I'm not from Melbourne. I'm from South Australia. We're in Melbourne now. We make beer in Melbourne. I'm of the opinion that you should sell your beer as close to your brewery as possible. Because why put it on trucks into Sydney when there's breweries in Sydney already making great beer?
And you said it's best in the glass.
Exactly.
The customer.
So want to sell a lot of beer in Melbourne. In 5 years' time, hopefully we'll have a couple more venues. Maybe we'll put a venue in another city to do something similar that we are at the moment. But I think a lot of breweries think that type of thing. So we'll reach every opportunity at it as it comes. We'll have a brewery built by then, hopefully.
Where you guys are doing the end-to-end and...
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So we can make a larger volume, package it there, and have a bit more space, because currently we're pretty tight on space. For Seb, I guess we just want to provide him with the opportunities, as I think any parent wants to. Great opportunities to do whatever he wants to do.
Awesome.
At the moment, he spends a lot more time at the brewery than he does in a winery. So he is definitely winning.
That's good. It's positive.
Yeah. Yep. Whenever he sees cans, he says, "Daddy, it's a beer." There it is.
Were his first words beer?
Not far off. Not far off.
Last one, mate. Can you tell anyone that's listening? Can you tell them exactly where, exactly the address of Molly Rose, when you're open, all the rest of it?
Yeah, sure. We're at 279 Wellington Street, Collingwood. We're open Thursday to Sunday, afternoons, evenings. Come on down, grab some beers. We've got some food on. In the future, we'll have a full kitchen, so we'll be running a whole bunch of stuff, and we're open longer. So we've got Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. You better follow as we build the site, and as we get closer, I may announce an opening date if I believe that we're actually going to open the venue.
What's the Instagram handle?
At Molly Rose Brewing.
Awesome. Mate, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me.
Awesome.
Cheers.